With that, I'm sure my superintendent has some good things to tell us about, and I know I'm excited about some of your plans.
Amen. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the board, members of our community. I would like to wonder if anyone knows which cereal box or which type of cereal was the most present in the video.
We can guess.
You can guess. Cheerios, we have
Lucky
Honeycomb.
Charms.
Fruity Pebbles. Fruity Pebbles is number one. I wanted to thank you so much, and Kelly Reese and her team. Those boxes are donated to local food banks, and that's they say that's one of the least donated items there. As we move forward in our presentation, we are very thankful for this board for its commitment to our schools and our mission statement of providing safe, secure, diverse, and equitable learning environments. As you're aware, you approved for a $50 million project for Irmo High School. We were very excited. We had a very successful bond sale during our spring break on April the 11th. We had 11 bidders to participate in buying a part of what we call our debt, but we say our future. And the lion's share of that's going to go into Irmo High School. The question is, what do we put inside the brick and mortar? And I think as we look at the needs of a community, we're excited about bringing an instructional model that will do well for the students who live in our community. We have and done a great job of articulating paths for those who want to go to a four-year college. We are upticking what we want to do in terms of providing opportunities for those going to the two-year college. But when we look at those who go into the military, into the workforce, we're very proud of them. But we want to focus on the job creators. We want to focus on a new paradigm that will allow students who are interested in small businesses, interested in being entrepreneurs, to have a pathway to get access, as Dr. Hampton says, to our economy now. So we're excited to bring in its genesis a new program that we will have at Irmo High School, and I'm going to ask our Chief of Academics and Administration, Ms. Anna Miller, in conjunction with Director Prigge of our Career and Tech and our principal, new acting principal, but new principal of Irmo High School, Dr. Karen Hampton, to talk about the Small Business Incubator at Irmo High School. So, Ms. Miller?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Ross and Madam Chair, school board members. Dr. Ross, we're excited to be here tonight to share with you the very beginning of our vision for a program at Irmo High School. So as you can see on the screen now, we're calling this our Small Business Incubator for Entrepreneurship and Small Business Certificate. And as Dr. Ross has shared with us many times and will continue to share, the poverty index across our district varies greatly. We know that. Yet even in the areas of the highest concentration, the dreams of those parents for their children are similar to the dreams of parents for their children everywhere. What we find that parents want is good health, a good education, economic stability, and a better future. Do buildings matter? As we build this building, does it matter what it looks like? And that is a resounding yes. As we look at our plans for Irmo High School, we've been talking about how the different structures of schools look from 20 years ago today, and the intentional learning spaces and things that we create in there. So do buildings matter? Yes, absolutely they matter. Building quality matters, and building design matters. There is research, there are studies that show that exposure to natural light improves student test scores, attendance, and behavior. The way we design buildings has the ability to increase achievement, and it has the capacity to transform lives. We have such a vision for Irmo High School. So how do we help ensure that our parents' dreams for their children of a better future becomes a reality for our students? Education, opportunity, skills, and access to the economy now. And that's where Main Street intersects with Mall Street. Some of the most common questions from students are, why do I need to know this? And when will I ever use this? So making learning personal and relevant, project-based learning, using their curiosity and their ideas for invention, and their passion to create these small businesses. So if we provide the space, support, and pathways to connect students with skills and real-life experiences, that will greatly enhance their opportunities for success, both in high school and beyond. As Dr. Ross said, we are at the very beginning stages, so our visioning and planning. What do we need to do first? We need to create the space. So dedicating one hallway. And in our plans, that hallway is the one at Irmo High School in that wing that has the big pride in the floor. And we're hoping that that is what this will continue to bring for Irmo High School and District 5. Removing those lockers and installing storefronts and window spaces in that area. And then to enhance or establish partnerships with local businesses and colleges around us. Of course, gathering input from stakeholders will be part of that, and Dr. Hampton will share some information about that with you as well. So to create what we're thinking along the lines, creating a school-based enterprise for these students who have a business plan, or to help them create that business plan in 9th and 10th grades, and then go through an application process. I don't know, maybe that looks like Shark Tank, maybe it looks like something else, but we'll make it something fun and something creative, and then so that the students who their business plans are approved, then they can start to secure funding and open a storefront their junior and senior years. And then, of course, we hope that they take that and go out in the community and continue to impact our district and community. So our goal, of course, is to connect students with their learning through work-based learning opportunities and experiences. So we're excited about this. And next, I'm going to call up our director, as Dr. Ross said, of CTE, David Prigge, and he's going to make some connections there. And then Dr. Hampton will tell you some specifics about Irmo High School. So it's this one to go forward.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Ross. Thank you, Ms. Miller. I'm proud to be here, and I want to say my congratulations to what you saw this evening already with Skills USA and the robotics team. That's Career and Technical Education on the move. We're doing good things in District 5. Now, in this model with Irmo High School, we've developed or going to develop 6 career pathways in the business education side. And this is a project that I have not seen anywhere in South Carolina in the 26 years I've been in CTE. The pathways will be the general management major. That's your accounting and entrepreneurship, banking services, because we're looking forward to having a bank on site. And they'll do banking services, business finance, entrepreneurship. And the business finance major, which is accounting 1, business finance and entrepreneurship. Marketing communications, that's advertising, marketing, and of course entrepreneurship. Then we'll go into marketing management major, which is marketing, sports and entertainment management, entrepreneurship, and finally merchandising, marketing, and the merchandising course in entrepreneurship. As you notice, all 6 majors have entrepreneurship because we want to teach them how to be entrepreneurs and develop their own business skills. And then we have picked out 4 major student certifications that these students will get by the time they graduate high school. And they'll be qualified for college and career ready. I always try to say career first, but student certifications, the entrepreneurship and small business, that is a statewide certification. Microsoft Office 2016, which will change to 2018 this coming school year. QuickBooks Certified User, and then the retail industry fundamentals. So In each of these courses, we're projecting 20 to 24 students, and there's 6 majors, and we have 3, so that's, if my math is right, approximately possible, what is that, 1,800? Somewhere around there, or 180? I'm not sure. I'm not a math person. I put together diesel engines for a living. But it will increase over the next 3 years our completer status, our work-based learning, which we're working hard on right now to increase for this coming school year, and it will also increase our federal Perkins 5 indicators, which we have passed for 2021 because they're always a year behind, and it'll really help our graduation rate. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Hampton.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Dr. Ross, thank you for the opportunity to share more about the one and only Irmo High School. As we move into this project, I have dreamed about what it could look like, and to be able to have this conversation to possibly bring it to fruition is really exciting, so thank you for this. At this point, we are at the crossroads of Main Street and Mall Street, and that is innovation. Dr. Ross, in our conversations, we've kind of gone back and forth about what does the I stand for. Right now, the I in Irmo means innovation. And what can this look like not only for our students, the class of 2025, class of 2030, we're thinking about classes, the 40, the 50s. How can we prepare our community and our students for what this will look like? Irmo High School will be able to offer a multiple range of connections with our CTE programs, in addition to some of the programs that we already offer. Currently, we offer 2 international baccalaureate programs, our diploma and our career. It is an absolute perfect connection for those programs to fit right into our small business and entrepreneurship certificates. Also, our college prep students and for honors courses. Particularly, I want to hone in on strengthening our college and career readiness, looking at our dual enrollment programs, and how can we make the connections with our current institution that we partner with. Right now, we're with Midlands Technical College, and we can look at expanding what that may look like for our Yellow Jackets. Also, right now, we have a great opportunity to make a connection to our First Jobs program. Students are in this program, not only can they create their own business, but they can hire their friends. We can hire friends, and we can have a business going on right at Irmo High School, where our students are surrounded not only with the support, but the guidance of our faculty, staff, and community. By building this small business incubator, I have done a lot of research. There is no other schools, other districts in this area being as forward-thinking as we are right now. And it would be great if it stayed that way. So our momentum has to happen really quickly. So in building this project and creating an opportunity for our students to have economic impact now, because we look at all of our demographics, our data, we have an opportunity for some students to connect to a 4-year institution, to a 2-year institution. For some, they need economic impact right now. So what does that look like? Having a job at school, having an opportunity to be a part of a business and be able to receive payment and those type things through our efforts here at Irmo High School. So how do we do that? You say, how is Irmo High School going to make this happen? Well, through the support of our community with business advisories, connecting with those who are not already business partners, but who will be future business partners, allowing our students to guide their own thinking with student-led business planning, and also some on-the-job training. I think we all have on-the-job training. I'm on mine right now, to be sure that whatever we do for Irmo High School represents who we are and what we want to be. So when does this discussion happen? Happens really soon. So on May the 18th, you all will be receiving an invitation. We are going to have a conversation with our architect. We're inviting everybody, the entire community. So we will ask anyone who would like to attend that evening. We'll post it all on our social media, send out invitations so that we have an opportunity to collect feedback from all participants, whether it's your current community member, a future community member, a parent. My parents plan to attend. So anybody who would like to have a conversation about what Irmo High School is going to look like for our community for the next 50 years, please join us on May the 18th for those opportunities. We will be on Main Street so that we can have an opportunity to see what that looks like, and then we can all take a little tour right on over to our potential Mall Street. Thank you so much for your time. I'll turn it back over to Ms. Miller.
So much. And that is it, Dr. Ross. Thank you so much to Mr. Pergy and Dr. Hampton. And that concludes our exciting plan and vision.
Well, thank you so much. And again, we're at the genesis of this. We're very excited. Invite everyone to come out May 18th as you hear more. Really looking forward to this. As we hear from Dr. Hampton, we engage a lot of students, but there are certain students who are not engaged. And they're looking for something new and innovative from schools. And what we hear from them is the ability to get access to the economy right now and to be able to, we saw that with First Jobs, now that they are able to expand that and run their own businesses. We're really excited about this. You can't find it anywhere else in the state, and we're excited about that. That eye of innovation is something that I'm very excited about. So we stand for any questions at this time.
Ms. Moore.
I think this is exciting. There's one thing I know about Irmo, the community loves to come together, and you've got some strong business owners, so this is exciting. I know that it has been said that there is no other pilot program like this in the state of South Carolina, but I am curious if there are other programs like this within schools in the U.S., and if so, have you researched them and kind of looked at how they've built their platform and all that good stuff?
So yes, we wanted to claim nationally, but we actually kind of stole this idea from one of the, I think, most well-run is in Georgia, in Norcroft, Georgia, in Gwinnett County at Meadow Creek. We are taking their school-based enterprise and we're turning it up. The notion of creating the whole marketplace is something new, but it works off of that. And what they found is at a school with 86% poverty, 96% minority, that school academically competes with Drury High School. When we look at open enrollment schools throughout the country, there is a almost perfect regression from poverty to proficiency. I mean, it's not causal, but it's highly correlated. This school beats the curve, and they beat the curve because they engage students in a way that meets their immediate needs. And so we have a clinic with the principal there. He was a finalist for National Principal of the Year, and so he's done a great job of building that up. Dr. Hampton has also looked at a different school that is also in school-based enterprise. It's unique for our state, but not for our nation.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Yeah, I'll put this in. Ms. Hunt?
What is the timeline to make this operational? Are we going to start the business classes in the next year so that by the time the new school is open, that storefront will be ready 11th and 12th grade years for those students, or what's the time frame to be up and running?
So our ideally is to begin with the construction. I do like the idea of mapping ahead so that when that building is open, they're ready. Part of the 9th and 10th grade year is developing that, having those business advisories work through your business model, getting the banks that are going to be our partners. What's cool is these kids get real money to open up a real business that we underwrite. So what we're going to do is I promise academics and administration that we would allow them to plan it out, to at least take a year to make sure that we have the teachers, the curriculum, and all of the agreements in. We do have, we're excited that our banking services with Truist is willing to be a part of Main Street. So we are very excited about of that, but we would need a year in order to plan it out. Mr. Prigge? If you can come to the mic for us, so we can record you on live.
Just to answer a little bit more, 7 of the courses that were listed on the PowerPoint are starting this coming fall. So we're already preparing for this type of adventure.
Good, so the courses are getting started even though the facilities aren't put together?
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha, that's great, that's great. That's good, Ms. Hines. Mr. Levis? you have
Yes. I want to throw a candidate in there for the IS, internships. And I want to make sure that, and as you put down here, that small businesses are part of this. But I think key to the process is involving all of the small businesses who want to be. But also, we need to pave the road all the way from the elementary school with everybody in the Irmo cluster. I mean, we need to make sure that there's a goal at the end of the tunnel, that everybody sees, the light. And I think that this will be a competitive advantage for the whole community of Irmo. This will be something that, that everybody will emulate because of the fact that we're going to start a new renewal, if you will, and I'm very excited about what you're doing and your plans.
I'd like to add one thing, and we're going to provide this, if you know Elizabeth Taylor, who worked with ICRC, and there's the Lower Saluda Greenway Initiative that's coming to the St. Andrews area. We'll provide those to the members of the board. But we're excited that this is a community project. We just feel like we're part of it, and that our students would be primed to take advantage of small business opportunities right on St. Andrews. So we see major changes coming in terms of development in that area. Having the students of Irmo, South Carolina, to be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities is really exciting and a part of a larger vision of our community.
You have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. I didn't ask it. I'm sorry. I'm
You
interrupting.
got to raise your hand, Ms. Levis. No, I'm teasing.
Okay, Mr. Prigge, you mentioned the Perkins Funds. Okay, and those are for completers. Those are federal funds that we get for everybody that completes one of these courses. Over a 4 or 2 year period. Is that what it is? Is it?
We'll have an increase over the next 2 years already with the courses we're implementing in the fall. So we can go, right now, Irmo High School completer-wise is pretty low, but I foresee within 2 years, 3 at the most, because they have to have 3 courses to be a completer in business, we should have approximately 200 to 300 completers within 3 years.
Okay. Can those funds be used to grow the program, or do they have to be used in the specific category that the completer received them in?
No, they can be used to upfit facilities, for certification, professional development, for the teachers, also for student organizations, which will come along with this. It'll be Future Business Leaders of America, a student organization, to be heavily involved. But we also have state funds that we can use for this type of thing, and for equipment, and for the student certification, so we can pay for that.
So for every completer we get, we grow our bank of,
Yes.
of funds that we can use to grow our program to make it even better.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say a couple of things. I know we were all excited about this, and, my history started at Irmo High School, and I don't mind telling anyone that Irmo High School was the flagship school that put District 5 on the map. And I'm excited about the leadership of Dr. Karen Hampton. I'm excited that we have a program that's going to address, it's innovative for sure, I know as a teacher that so many kids at a certain age don't really even see the value in school like we want them to. And I think something where it's business-based, we're helping them in every which way. So I'm excited about this, and I want to personally invite the community to come out on that May 18th to Irmo High and see the vision put together with LS3P, that's the architect designing that. And we know that schools aren't made by the, it isn't the brick and mortar, it's the teachers and the students within, but it is important. It is important to children to feel their school is new and is uplifted, just like we like to renovate our houses and paint and things. So I'm just excited that Irmo is getting this attention, and that I think it's long overdue. I've wanted to see some innovativeness with Irmo. So I can't tell you how excited I am. So I'm going to see a lot of you on May 18th, 5 o'clock p.m.
If, as you transition to the next slide, Beware the Sting was something that was, when the logo came out, I think in the 70s, the late 70s, they ran an ad in the newspaper, the state newspaper, over and over again, beware the sting, until they revealed, well, not everybody knows the story, so, but we would ask that this is the old building as we build the new building, the new wing. We heard from Coach Tim Whipple, many of you know him, legendary coach of basketball at Irmo, and we would like, in the spirit of bringing the old into the new, the cornerstone of the new building, to place what he told his first basketball team at Irmo High School. And we would like to engrave that in the cornerstone of the new building. He told this to his 81-82 basketball team, that this is the start of a new tradition, laying a great foundation. And I think if we can take those words and put it on the new building to tie it into the spirit of the old church, of the old Irmo, I think that that would be a great tie-in with a legend such as Tim Whipple. So we're really excited about that.
I like it. It's great.
All right, back to me.
You're on.
All right. So we're on the discussion of potential bond referendum to finance poor and fair rated facilities in the 2019 MBCON report. I must state that according to our bond attorney, that we are not allowed to use district resources to advocate for a bond referendum. So you will hear me say if one passes, or if it does not, I will not advocate or use district resources to advocate. This is merely for information and to inform the board and the community of the situation in which we are in. I believe that we go back to our basic three questions as we tackle any of the issues that we have within our school district: our vision question, mission question, and outcomes. We've set our vision as we love and grow our students. We've established a mission statement. And key to that mission statement is the visual representation of that mission statement, which is our umbrella. This is what we work each and every day to provide for our 17,286 students. And we're realizing that we have to now provide it for our 2,600 staff. We are having two major impacts to our outcomes of ensuring that every child is able to meet their grade level expectations and to meet what we have established in our mission statement. I think it's important for the board to know the work that our teachers are doing and the conditions in which we're in. In our last month's report from our social workers, we have actually totaled, through Dr. Harris's work with our social workers, 8,103 incidences involving issues beyond the school that our social workers have to deal with, including 288 suicide evaluations. This umbrella is important for the work that we have to do, and that impacts our outcomes. But as was said, the environment in which we work with our students also impact our outcomes. And so part of our mission is to provide a safe, secure, and equitable learning environment for all students. We have promised you to have these guiding principles in determining how to provide this learning environment, that it would include a community analysis, a facilities and needs assessment, enrollment and projections, an instructional plan review, as you heard tonight with Irmo High, and overall our plan. So I want to present the initial discussions of a plan for building strong educational foundation for School District 5. As I like to say, we are 3 communities, but 1 family. And as a district, I akin it to having 3 different children. They all have different needs, but you love them all the same. And we want to make sure that every school within our district is allowed to get the needs that it has. When you look at our district, we have the mental health challenge, but we also have the challenge that poverty plays on proficiency. Overall, we're in a great shape in terms of the state average of pupils in poverty, which is about 60%. We sit at 43%. I checked Dr. Holden, our accountability director, to make sure I'm right. But if you look at its distribution throughout the district, it's not evenly distributed. And so as we drill a little deeper, even into our elementary zones, you see something very unique about School District 5 of Lexington and Richland counties. If you take our 135th data from this year and you look at our pupils in poverty, you can see that we have communities with 18% pupils in poverty all the way to communities with 84% pupils in poverty. That we serve all of that within our district. So we have a variety of needs in one district, and we might not be able to handle everything the same. We may need to retool and to pivot to provide the unique needs for each of the communities in which we serve. But poverty has an impact on proficiency. We see this in terms of the 2021 U.S. News and World Report rankings, where it has Chapin as number 5, Spring Hill as 15, Dutch Fork High School as 19, 3 of our 4 high schools in the top 20 in the state. But then you look at Irmo High School, it ranks 115 out of 243 schools. We're excited about the changes that are coming that will engage our students, and we want to provide them with the space in which to do these new and innovative opportunities. And we believe that we can get all of our schools not only in the top 20, but in the top 10 if we give them what they need. However, if we look at the high-density poverty that we have in the East, and we overlay that with the facilities that we have in the East, it is time to address these issues. It's time to invest in those areas of high poverty so that we can show that that these investments can turn around great works in terms of academic achievement and community development. And so by addressing what was outlined as our fair and poor rated facilities, I believe that reinvestment in these areas will allow us to see positive gains. What happens if we do not act? I want you to take a look, Madam Chair, members of the board, in our community. This is our, what we would call poverty in School District 5. We're using 2 different measures from 2011 to 2022, but you can see the change nonetheless. Not investing in those areas don't mean that we can escape from it. And I'll just take a personal privilege. I moved from one community to Irmo to escape something. Saturday ago, my family in Harbison was confronted with the very thing that I tried to escape. And I think it's time that we reinvest, that we claim our communities, and that we run no more, that we pour resources into areas that need reinvestment, and that we show that we can have high academic achievement in all areas, regardless of what the poverty level. And so this plan is to show that we can not perpetually serve children in poverty, but we can transform children out of poverty. And I think this reinvestment gives us the space, the place, the tools to transform children and families out of poverty. And as Dr. Hampton says, give them access to the economy right now. Currently, our methodology to do this in those areas where we have the higher concentrations of poverty, we are sending 10 elementary schools into one school for 1 year, Crossroads. Now, the people of Crossroads are doing an amazing job. In fact, one of our honor roll teachers of the year, Ms. Westfall, is the teacher at Crossroads Intermediate School. And they're doing an amazing job, and they're working against heavy odds. It is my goal, and I use the word my because if this plan goes down, then I'll take full responsibility for it. But to do, as was said earlier, to look at our communities as K-12, our families, they look at their children from cradle to career. And I think as schools, we need to have the same mindset of going from cradle to career to map forward that pathway for all of our students. As a result, it is the plan to move from this flow in our school district to this flow. And this allows the high school principals at each of the high schools in our 3 different communities, 1 family, but to map back all the way down to the elementary school, whether that be 3K or 4K, to plan their curriculums, to easily align their initiatives to ensure that we can maximize the growth of every student within their community. In order to do this, we need to make some facility changes. What we're proposing as we present in the 3 and 4 options that we'll give you is that we, one, we're addressing the mold situation at the district office, that we have a professional development wing added onto that. That 2, and 3 really go together. We expand Dutch Fork Middle and Irmo Middle School to 6th grade wings. There is great, we're seeing, there's some good things that we see in terms of having 6th graders by themselves. We would just like to have them on that campus. So by having the wings, we can still develop our 6th graders separate from the 7th and 8th, but they'll still be a part of the overall culture of the Irmo Middle School and Dutch Fork Middle School campuses. So converting those schools to take in all of the 6th graders of their cluster. Crossroads Intermediate site will be renovated for an elementary school and an early child care center. We know that 80% of the brain is developed in the first 3 years of life. And so we want to ensure that we can work, especially in the areas where we have that high concentration of poverty playing its impact on proficiency. We want to make sure that we have opportunities for these that are the least of ours in our community. And we would use Crossroads, that site, as a swing space so that we can address Nursery Road. So Nursery Road would move into the Crossroads Intermediate space. It would be called Nursery Road at Campus I. For those who are familiar with Irmo, that was the name of that building. Once Nursery Road is fully remodeled, Nursery Road will move from Campus I back into its remodeled building with walls. we're familiar with what's currently going on with Nursery Road and Harbison West. Harbison West would move into the Crossroads site, and that's where it would be located. And so that transition would, in effect, sell the Harbison West property back to the school district. Our estimates put about $3 million back into the plan with that. A big part of this is addressing the growth in Chapin, because we still have to address the growth in Chapin. As a result, I will show in our program why we would need a new Dutch Fork Elementary School. That Dutch Fork Elementary School is being proposed to be in the existing attendance lines of Dutch Fork Elementary. This will allow us to use the current Dutch Fork Elementary, which we would basically rename into the Rosenwald Rich Lakes Building with the permission and approval of the board. Dr. Holden can give you a full debrief on the historical value of Rosenwald Rich Lakes Building. That will allow us to take the Academy for Success, Adult Ed, and 5 from their current schools, Spring Hill, Irmo High School, and Piney Woods, to give us space in those areas. Seven Oaks Elementary would receive security upgrades, and Chapin High School for parity would get a fine arts building. Under that plan, we initially budgeted $130 million. And so, with that, I brought 4 options to our board. Option number 1 is we take no action. We don't know the cost of that, but the growth in Chapin still has to be addressed. Option number 2, we live above our means or above our millage. We can, on the initial amount, so this is 2019 data, look at Mr. Beatonbow, he knows this is low, but for 275, we at the time believed that we can address all District 5 schools. We know that that does not hold to be true. We can live at our means or millage, 130 million. We maintain the current mill rate of 69.5 mills, meaning this passage, we live at our millage. We borrow no more than what's allowed in the mill cap. We do have Mr. Jay Glover, who will be here for questions from our financial advisor to talk about the options there. And then option 4, living below our millage, to reduce the mills on debt service to 68.5 mills. Madam Chair, members of the board and the community, I think it's important before we move forward in this discussion to have a little school finance 101, because this can be very confusing when we talk about these millions of dollars. And it's important to understand that of our 3 major pots of funds, whether it's federal, state, or local, when you look at the local side, it consists of a millage, a tax on real estate. There's 2 types of taxes that we leverage. One is the operational, the other is debt service. I usually say staff and stuff. And so operational millage is used on staff. Debt service is used on stuff, the construction, technology, equipment, and renovations. The money that we're talking about tonight cannot be used for staff. You can use operational money for debt service, but you cannot use debt service for operations. So I think it's important to know that as we talk about these funds, it cannot be used for any of the operationals, any for the staff or benefits. It has to be used on construction and major equipment. And so this money comes from, on the debt service side, there's a partial rebate for 4% properties and 0 for 6%. So in options 3 and option 4, we're not impacting those types of properties with those options. We also have looked at other projects that would be either bond or capital as we discussed it. Dutch Fork High School renovations. It is time for Dutch Fork High School to get some new lighting and restroom and some upgrades. Dutch Fork High Stadium to have parity with what's being built at Chapin. Lake Mary Elementary and River Springs floor replacement, technology upgrades and firewall. We have special needs vehicles and the Irmo High Stadium upgrade with parity with the other high schools. So that's about $15 million that would either, as we talk about financing options, that we can either put in the bond or the capital projects. So again, going back to what is a bond referendum, technically we do bond referendums every year, but that's confusing. So what's important to know is that we have an 8% limit on a credit card, if you will. And this 8% is 8% of the total assessed value of Lexington and Richland County, our attendance zone. We can use up to 8% or borrow up to 8% to go after these projects. And that's how a large part of Irmo High School is being financed. But if we need 8.1%, we must have a bond question. And so going over that 8% is what we're asking to do. And so in those four options, if you look at our total assessed value, again, this gets readjusted in June. You'll see we're a little over $500 million with $586,383,014. We have what 8% allows us to do. Again, that's no change in taxes. You see with $275 million, that's 46%. Of course, that would increase taxes. 130 in option 3 and 4 would either be no change or we can do a small decrease in taxes. Do we have Jay Glover on the line?
Dr. Ross, this is Jay Glover. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes, sir. I just want to make sure you're on the line. We're not. We are. I don't know if we have it on our screen, but as we get to questions, I want you to be available for the questions there. I'm gonna finish the presentation. I just want to make sure you were there, so when we get to the question and answer, you can help us out there. So what we showed to the Facilities Committee was these graphs that were created by Jay Glover and his team. This shows our gray, our existing debt, yellow, the Irmo debt for their project. The red is our annual maintenance. We'll have this forever to maintain our buildings. And the blue would be the bond referendum. You can see at the top of the blue bars the millage rate that would be needed to pay this debt down. In option 3, we put a line here. That's the cap. We have to stay under that. And so we could still finance the referendum, but it would ensure under these models that we would not have to raise debt service millage. And then we see in option 4, the debt goes out 2 years, but it still could be accomplished. That is where we left with the Facilities Committee. But as we started to look at the projections, the growth, we saw that going from this to this would not be sufficient, that we needed to do we needed to make additional changes. And so we asked just to kind of give a highlight of some of our projections and enrollment that we would see within our community. Here are some highlights, but I wanted to turn to Dr. Harris if he would like to just showcase what we're seeing in terms of projections, and while we cannot stop at the current phase 2 of this plan. So, Dr. Harris?
Thank you, Dr. Ross, and members of the board, general community. I think what I can do here is offer some statements in the form of two comments. One is this: what you have before you again are excerpts from the July 13th, 2020 demographic study that was done by Malone McBroom that does give us information and highlights regarding elementary, middle, intermediate, and high school projections. It gives us an idea as to what they foresaw futuristically for School District 5. However, I think part two of what I would say is this, and I think this is much of what we already know, is that the lion's share of the growth here in School District 5, as we look at all of our enrollment data, 45th day, 90th day, 135th day that was referenced earlier, whether it's 10 years out, whether it's last year, whether it's this year alone, the one thing that is constant and consistent is that the growth in School District 5 continues to be in the west area of School District 5, in our Chapin area. That continues to be where our growth is. That is notable, and as Dr. Ross mentioned, as we looked at the plans and took a close account of the enrollment, what you've heard, what you will continue to hear, is predicated in large part on what the enrollment suggests to us that has done so rather consistently over the years. So with that being said, I think what you have here, again, are excerpts, but it also reiterates what we have known for some time, that our area of growth is really in our Chapin area, and that continues to be the case.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harrison. So with that growth, we cannot stay at this structure, and so that we would have to address not only what we have done in the Irmo community and the Dutch Fork community, but we would need to address what's the realities that we have in the Chapin community. So with that, I present Phase 3. Phase 3, if, again, because it cannot advocate, but if the bond referendum passes and as the growth continues in Chapin, what I would be proposing to do is move from the Dutch Fork community, or Dutch Fork cluster, Ballantyne, into the Chapin cluster. Right now, if we look at right now, Chapin Elementary School and Lake Mary Elementary School are both over 90% capacity. And so we would, by bringing this school here, building a bigger Dutch Fork Elementary School, the 518 students that would be zoned for Dutch Fork would still be in the Dutch Fork cluster. The 25 students that are zoned for Chapin would still go to Chapin, so they'll still go to the area that they're supposed to go to. But we can bring fifth grade back to the elementary schools. With that space of bringing the fifth grades back to elementary school, we would take the current Chapin Intermediate School and make that Chapin Middle School once again. We would take the current Chapin Middle School, and that would become Spring Hill Middle School. They would both go to Chapin High School. Spring Hill High School would continue its magnet program, but with the removal of the Academy for Success, because the Academy for Success goes to the Rosenthal Rich Lakes building, we have additional ways to basically draw down on the capacity of Chapin High School. Members of the board and the community, this is where I would like to stay. I would like to stay in this format. However, I think it's important that if we cannot, to present what the next option would be. And if we could not keep the, as we saw, as high projections as 21% growth at Chapin High School over the next 10 years, if we cannot stay at this level, then I would propose Phase 4. Phase 4 would be 4 community clusters in our district. But again, it is my hope to stay at this level and to maintain at this level, to honor what we're doing at the Spring Hill High School, to ensure that everybody who is at Ballantyne that's going to Chapin, they'll continue to go to Chapin. Everyone that's Ballantyne that's going to Dutch Fork Middle, they'll continue to go to Dutch Fork Middle and to Dutch Fork High School. It'll just be, we would just redistribute over these 4 schools with a bigger Dutch Fork Elementary School, all in its current attendance zone. And so with that, we present these 4 options to try to accomplish this. And I know that there will be a lot of questions, so we're going to pause at this time to take questions.
Okay. Any questions from this side before I go? Ms. Moore?
I have one question. The study was done a couple of years ago, correct?
Correct.
So with inflation and the way that we currently see prices increasing, and then looking at the dates and the years of when this would be done, are we not taking into effect that we could be doing a bond referendum and then still having to do another one because of the difference?
Great question. So at the facilities meeting, we had, and Donnie Wilson, who is advising us financial, could not be with us tonight. He had a death in the family. We were advised to go back and get newer estimates, given what we're seeing in terms of prices. And so these figures represent the latest estimates in terms of what those prices would be as of if we were going into this project. So these are the latest. We think of course, they're very high, higher than what we presented to the Facilities Committee, because we did not think the 2019 data was going to work. So these have already been increased. Some of these projects were as high as a 124% increase in some places. So we've seen significant gains. Our hope, we're seeing rising interest rates. So that means capital will shrink. Credit will shrink. Cash is not on the ground. Maybe we can see prices fall by the time we go to build. I think what's good is that we're going to try to finance this at a higher price and then maybe build at a lower. But that's a great point. These have represented the latest estimates we have from Mosley. Mr. Beatonbaugh, I'd like to speak to. Is there anything you want to add? I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, Dr. Ross, you're actually correct. It is based on inflation, and the time we would build each project was built into these numbers. So based on all the projections, they're pretty accurate based on the information we have today.
Is that good, Ms. Moore? Okay. Ms. Huddle?
One question I had is I think the projections or the actual shows that the Dutch Fork cluster, the enrollment is going down. So the question I have is why, and do we see that changing? And if so, why?
Yeah, that's a good point in terms of that. I think it's the movement, and I'm going to speak frankly here. When we look at those maps, people tend to move away from high densities of poverty. And I think as that comes east to west, we see the movement moving from east to west. I hope, and I don't hope, I believe that when we reinvest in those areas, when we put these initiatives there, people will move back. They will see that reinvestment as an opportunity to move back. That with the Greenway, I think, will be some exciting opportunities to see the growth flatten out. What we would do if, you're looking at what we have with River Springs, Oak Point, not so much space at H.E. Corley, but a bigger Dutch Fork, we could still redistribute and be with our elementary schools and still be in good capacities at all of them. So that would be sustainable for the Dutch Fork growth.
Okay. Yeah, I'm coming to this side. I'll go this way, Mr. Lovelace.
Yeah, to answer Ms. Moore, or to piggyback on what Ms. Moore said, when you're in a period of inflation, eventually that's going to affect the commercial institutional construction markets. And when that happens, of course, you're not going to have as much work going on, so you're going to have more contractors chasing fewer jobs. So that's a mitigating or a dampening factor on the on the process. But the one thing that we have to understand is that we have to hang our shingle out and welcome bids from multiple sources. We can't just go to tried and true, because that will be a dampening factor, and that will help us with the situation. So anytime, my experience in the construction industry, and I've been doing it for 40 years, is that anytime the housing market is booming, the industrial, institutional, and commercial work is not really that hot. When it's reversed, that's when things change. So just keep in mind that all is not doom and gloom in that regard. So.
Thank you. Ms. Hines?
All right, so phase 3, phase 3 or phase 4, well, I guess phase 3 first. If we are transitioning the elementary schools or 2 elementary schools to Chapin Middle and then 2 elementary schools to Spring High Middle, are there costs associated with that? And if so, I don't see them identified in this list, so I'm just curious as to whether or not we would need to anticipate costs for transitioning the school model for the Chapin cluster in particular.
Great question. So one of the things that we need to decide to do is 3 and 4 are considerations if the bond referendum passes. And so if we don't go for options 2, 3, or 4, what I've promised is to bring back how we would have to address the entire district if it doesn't pass. So to answer your question, the shifting of the elementary schools to these middle schools would not be included in the bond. That would be operational money outside of it.
Okay, just for clarification, I thought phase 3 was if the bond referendum passed and and Chapin continued to grow, which it's very much projected to do.
Correct.
So that's not included in, so like I guess I'm interpreting it as if a bond referendum passes, we're going to go to phase 3. And where are those dollars? And if it doesn't pass and we have to go to phase 4, where are those dollars? Because then you're splitting it into 4 clusters. And there may not be dollars associated. I'm just curious. I guess my biggest concern is I want to make sure that whatever is put in front of the voters, we've tried to account every scenario so that we don't have to come back for another bond referendum to ask for additional money. So I'm just trying to think that through. Does that make sense? I'm not looking at the option 3 and 4 for the bond referendum. I was looking at phase 3 for the clusters.
Correct. So with phase 3 and phase 4, these were only realities if we could get to phase 2. And so all of the money that we have in the bond was to get us to phase 2. Once we got there, and that was, once we got to that point, then we would be using our capital funds to shift to phase 3, and capital and operational funds to shift to phase 4. If there is no referendum, then we have to rezone the entire district, and we would be using capital funds to redo that. So we're going to hold that capital allotment, whether it's a 2-year or 3-year deal, holding that for, and I owe this committee what that looks like if it does not, if there is no referendum. So to answer your question, the funding to move would be within our operational budget of our capital, of reallocating that. Now, in terms of staffing, I'm meeting in small groups with schools. I have to ensure that no one loses a position. If they have a position with us, they will continue to have a position with us. It's just following the students. I know that wasn't the question. I just want to put that out there.
Let's see, well, let me let, Mr. Hogan, you got any question? I'm trying to go. Ms. Gardner?
Just to ask or to add to that question, or to clarify probably, so you are going to come to us before we get to the question to show us what it will be like if we don't, we'll already have a plan of rezoning the entire district. So we'll see which groups land in a non-neighborhood school and which ones get cut out of this school, and that will be shown so that we'll have a plan to go forward whether or not, before we even get to the question, whether or not there is, that way the community knows what they're choosing between, that there won't be any what-ifs involved.
Yes, ma'am. And so we want to articulate that very clear of what that would look like. Our goal is to maintain community schools to be as close to your elementary school as possible. And so as we provide at our next meeting or our next facilities meeting, if it does not pass, or then we would then have two realities to weigh. And so to Ms. Hines' question is, now we have to use all of capital to do that entire piece.
Was this in, Ms. Huddle?
Just a request along with that is, it looks like this actually should save us operating funds because we do have one less school, and we have more efficient, newer schools. So perhaps we could also estimate what would the annual savings be from an operating cost perspective. And then the other thing is, and it's not so much a question, it's just a thank you, and if anything, can we move faster? I have not talked to, and it is this is not in reference, I think that the teachers at Crossroads do a great job, and so does the administration, but it's just a difficult environment, and I've yet to have a parent that's like, yippee, my kid's going to Crossroads. So I'm just very excited about this. So, you know, if we do have a bond referendum that passes, I think the faster we can make that happen, the better, and I don't know what that solution is. And even on the solution where the option of no bond referendum, I would ask that maybe we look at still some way to address that, because like I said, I have yet to meet anyone that really wouldn't want to have a true middle school environment for their child.
Mr. Lovelace?
Yeah, I want to commend you for the planning and so forth, and Dr. Harris and everybody that's been involved in this, because that's what we're here to do, is plan for the future. Trying to, you know, obviously 3 and 4, trying to keep the load off of the businesses as small as we can keep it, and yet plan. But if we don't do anything, I guess my opinion is that the potential harbinger is larger class sizes. And that's the thing that we don't want to do. I mean, we want this, you know, we want to keep the class sizes small. We want to keep the community schools as they are. And I think you've laid out, you know, the scenarios to where, you know, we can plan the facilities, you know, in order not to hit those contentious snags or constraints.
Any other? Ms. Moore?
I just have one more question. As Ms. Hines said earlier, with the growth that we currently see in Chapin, it's not far-fetched to see that we could possibly become Phase 4. Can you explain what that would look like with Spring Hill High School? Like, would that mean that for the Chapin students who currently, their families that currently live there, lines would have to be redrawn, and would that still remain any type of magnet school for kids who are in other high schools?
Excellent. Yeah, so talking to Dr. Lofton as late as a few hours ago about this, they have a very unique magnet where it's a whole school magnet versus where we would see with STEM at Dutch Fork or IB at Irmo, even ALA at Chapin. Their model works as an entire school, and in phase 4, it'd be very difficult to do that because you do have lines. That's why they would really have to create something new at that point. And to be 100% honest, it would impact how it's delivered instructionally now. That's why our hope is to hold it at phase 3. For numerically, the tipping point, Chapin proper is built out at 1,700. And as it, we believe that opening up the wing with the Academy for Success will allow, and with Spring Hill Middle, and Dr. Lofton is imagining bringing part of his magnet into Spring Hill Middle, which would help a natural flow into Spring Hill High School within the current magnet structure. Protecting that is what's important. And we are also looking at, even within phase 3, now this is down the line here, but how do we over years eventually finance their academic package, their athletic package, so that if phase 4 happens, we're not behind on trying to finance athletics at a high school, so that we could slowly build that rollout in phase 3. So that's a lot of discussion that we're on right now, and as I told our principals, we have our discussions in the open, so if we mess up, charge that to our heads, not our hearts. We're just openly discussing this plan.
That's so important. I appreciate that the board has plenty of time to ask questions, and the community can have time to ask questions. Ms. Hines?
My question is, what is the process? What is our process as a board moving forward with this? Is this, what's our timeline? Is a specific option going to be brought to the board for a vote to put it on a ballot? Are there opportunities for public input before that happens? What's that process look like?
Great question. We would like to, at our next board meeting, bring our bond attorney, Franny Hauser, here to go over, if the board so chooses to consider any option 2, 3, or 4, to give the timeline. Working backwards, August 15th by noon, August 15, 2022 by noon, we have to submit the question to the county elections commissions. So in her draft, and she put on here watermark draft, we would have to adopt that resolution no later than August 8th, and that's a tight timeline. So to do that, drafting the referendum question would be early June 2022. She would ask that we make a vote if we were moving forward with one of these options no later than that first meeting in June 2022.
And to follow up that with her question, if the board voted to move forward on it, that would still, would you anticipate getting community input before the June date, before we as a board vote?
We will take this to all of our advisories, and I think having a community forum on this would be huge. We would like another discussion after we present our, if it does not pass. So maybe whether that happens in the facility to get some feedback on that, and then go to a community forum where we have more input. And that way we can bring all the input back to this body.
Before we would have a vote.
That. And you know, we'll get a lot of emails. We're kind of pulling this together. We were asked at the facilities meeting to put numbers to this, so the next time you'll see it, you'll see the 1/35th numbers to this so that you can see what capacities are. You can see the current realities of the day. So we know we have a lot of work on this, but this is the first piece. I think our difficulty is tracking moving numbers. As soon as you print something, it's almost irrelevant. So we want to make sure that we're being truthful to the public, but they have that caveat that we don't know how prices or rise and fall. So these are the best estimates that we have. We're being very conservative on the high side to make sure that we are able to finance these. I did have Jay Glover on here because as we look at options 3 and 4, I wanted him to explain that we believe there's actually more in that mill cap. And Mr. Glover, are you able to just kind of share what you found in terms of what we could do without raising debt service millage for options 3 and 4?
Yeah, Dr. Ross, Madam Chair, school board members, Jay Glover from PFM. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah, as Dr. Ross discussed, we're trying to be conservative in terms of all the assumptions that are made from the construction side and from the financing side. And that's how we originally came to the $130 million figure that you could do within your 69.5 mil or 68.5 mil levy. I think adjusting those assumptions somewhat and still being very realistic, I think there's a chance that you could stay within those parameters as well and actually get $150 million via a referendum. That just moves the debt service out a little bit further in terms of the average life and eats into some of that extra capacity out there in the latter years that we talked about in some of those graphs. But I think you could get $150 million out of each of those mill limits based on current projections and building in some cushion in the interest rate market, because I think we're all well aware of the fact that interest rates are likely headed up over the near term. So I do think you have some flexibility to get a little bit additional funding based on those millage levies as we've stated about.
We will provide those charts from Mr. Glover for your review and make sure those are posted with the 150 financing plan under the mill caps. We have not changed the 275, but I think we would also need to be realistic on what that number is. And I don't even want to guess what it is tonight, but we'll, Mr. Biedenbaugh? Yeah.
Right now, that projection's about 339 million instead of 275. So 339 million. That's today. It could change tomorrow, but that's today.
So prices are up, and that's a
Question? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hines.
I just wanted to clarify, we said a lot of dates earlier. So are you anticipating the vote to be taken on June 13th?
no later than, yes,
No
ma'am.
later than June 13th. And are you anticipating having a community forum or feedback session prior to June 13th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just making sure that I have my dates right.
I apologize because I thought I said that to be sure, or I did ask him the same question to be sure it would be the community input before we vote. Any other questions? Well, it's a good start, Dr. Ross.
Well, we're going to let Mr. Glover go. His wife is expecting at any moment, so we thank him for being with us at this time. And Madam Chair, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. And it is so important for any time a bond referendum is anticipated or even discussed, there's nothing more important than the trust of the community. And I applaud this board and the superintendent for working toward communication, and whether the board votes to go forth with it or not, at least that we will have input from the community, and hopefully they will understand what we get from the bond, and the question will be very clear and not something that can change. That has happened in former times with different boards.
Could I ask one question? If we're going to have the, which we always plan to have the community input, so that would mean that we would want to come back to the facilities committee before this, what was it, June the 13th, or what was the date?
Well, May 9th is our next meeting.
No, ma'am, no, I'm talking about June 13th meeting, so we can all plan, and I wish everybody would show up to the committee meeting so that we could discuss this.
When's your next facility?
Well, we could have it later in the evening so that some of the people that haven't been coming could come. But this is very important, and we really need to discuss this because this is where it'll be ironed out, so, thank you.
Thank you for that. So you're finished with your superintendent's report?